everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This is another comic book collecting video, specifically aimed toward low-grade collecting. I've touched up on this topic many times over the last few videos, but I thought I would dedicate, like I said, I don't know how quick this video is going to be. I always think they're going to be quick and they wind up to be longer, but I decided to make a video that was just dedicated to what I collect when it comes to low grade and so forth. Disclaimer, this is just my opinion. Doesn't mean that these are the way, my way is the way you're supposed to collect or anything like that. It's just guidelines that I follow by. Before I get to that, once again, everybody in Florida and then everyone else is in the direct path of Hurricane Irma. I'm thinking about you. I'm hoping for the best, as I'm sure you are. Several people in particular, like ETA Nick and Don the Comic Book Junkie and Master X Splinter and a bunch of other, Wilkin Dead, Deadpool 2323. I know these guys, they all live in Florida, and with this particular hurricane, it looks like it's covering all of Florida, not just the East Coast or the central part and so forth. So I'm thinking about you. I'm hoping for the best, and please be safe. So moving on, when it comes to collecting low grade, my philosophy is simple. I collect what I think is presentable, and that's usually between 2.0 and 4.0. I think anything below a 4.5 is considered low grade, with a 4.5 considering, the way I think of it at least, a 4.5 I think is low mid-grade. So I think anything below a 4.5, so 4.0 and below, is considered low grade. Some of the reasons why I collect low grade, because affordability, finances, like I said in other videos, some of us, we have different life situations, we have families, we have mortgages and so forth, so we get what we can get. But the important thing is to be happy with what you get. And that's why I collect low grades that are presentable. I'll get into it a little bit on low grades that I don't collect. I think you already know, if you watch my videos, a certain low grade that I don't collect, certain defect on a low grade that I don't collect. But I'll elaborate and I'll show an example on that in a few moments. So like I said, I collect low grades that are presentable. Like for instance, one that was in a recent video. Sorry for the glare. Amazing Spider-Man 14. This is a 4.0. So this is a high, low-grade book, in my opinion. I know you really can't see it too well, but it obviously has some defects in order to get a 4.0, but it presents very well. There are no stains on the book. There's no rust on the staples. There are no chunks missing from the front cover or the back cover. The centerfold's attached. The spines attached. There's no spinal splits, but it has other things on it. The pages are, I believe, cream to off-white, so that will affect the grade. A bunch of other things like little creases and color breaking creases, especially up over here, and other things that make this a high low grade book, but it's still a very presentable book and it's still a very good book to have. When you get into those higher grades of Amazing Spider-Man 14, 5.5, well, that's mid-grade, but definitely higher than my 4.0. So you're talking 5.5, 6.0. You're going over $1,000, and you have to ask yourself. Now, this video doesn't necessarily relate to those that are collecting for investment. So some of the things I might say, you might say, well, wait a minute, if you're looking to flip the book or if you're looking to invest in it, yeah, it would be a totally different story. But I'm just mainly talking for those of us that just collect. Investment's another type of video, another type of monster altogether. So like I was saying, for those that want to collect a book like that, Amazing Spider-Man 14, 6.0, 7.0, unless you find a deal, which, is becoming few and far between, to be quite frank, with the movies out, people finding comic books in their collection, or people inheriting comic books that have no interest in comics that want to sell them. Now that the movies are out, people are becoming more aware that, hey, maybe this is worth something. Or with eBay, people are like, hey, maybe they're becoming more aware of punching in the issue and seeing what it goes for. So as time goes on, those deals, I think, are going to become less and less. They'll still be possible, but I still think they're going to start to diminish. It's just inevitable. But when you're getting to some of those higher grade or mid-grade books, you're looking to spend a decent amount of money. And like I said, for me, I have a family. It's just not feasible. It's not responsible, for me to justify spending certain amount of money per book when I have a son, when we hope to have another child soon, and college and all that stuff for our children and so forth. It just doesn't make too much sense. So with that, I developed, collect what you like, but collect what you feel is presentable. And I think that particular copy that I have is very presentable. Here's another example of a low-grade book that I think is presentable. Batman 49. It's a 3.0. But, I mean, like I said, you can't really see all the defects, but the defects are few and far between. It's obviously enough to make it a 3.0, but it still looks very good. It's got creases and color breaking creases, and the pages are off-white to white, so that's not bad for this book came out. This book was on sale the same time my Detective 140 was on sale, so that's 1948, so that's pretty good. But it still has a 3.0 because of certain issues. I don't have the notes on this, so I don't know exactly what, but it looks very good. And it's still a very good book to have in this shape, or lower, to be quite frank. So that's my philosophy on 4.0s, 3.0s. Now let's talk about 1.0s, 1.5s, 1.8s. Those are low. I mean, those are low grade, right? Once again, it will depend on what the book looks like. I usually, if I'm going to buy a 1.5 book or a 1.8 book, I save those purchases for big boy books. Now, that is not a term that I came up with. I believe the great legend came up with that term, in some of our conversations when we talked about certain books we buy. Big boy books. What's a big boy book? Well, a big boy book, I think, is Amazing Fantasy 15, Incredible Hulk 1, Tales of Suspense 39. See where I'm going with this? Books that are thousands of dollars at low grade and thousands more mid-grade and high grade. Those are big boy books. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. I'm saying it now and I'm saying to myself, oh shit, I hope I'm not offending anybody. But let's be honest, those books are expensive in any grade, low grade, mid grade, or high grade. And it's because they're big boy books. Those are major books. First appearance of Iron Man, first appearance of Spider-Man, first appearance of the Fantastic Four. So it's a privilege and a blessing to even own that book. But for me, like I said, if I'm going to buy one of those books, and it most likely will be in the one range because that's pretty much all I could afford, it would have to still look good. The cover can't be hanging off. There can't be like big water stains all over it, rusty staples or anything like that. It would have to be something that looks pretty good. But in order for me to have a book that's a 1.8, it would have to be classified as a big boy book, not Luke Cage #1. Now I know I've used that example before, and I'm not dissing Luke Cage #1, but I think like books like Marvel Premiere 15 and Luke Cage 1. Those are books that you could spend about $300-400 on and get a high grade copy, and very nice copy, like a Marvel Spotlight 5. If you spend $300-400 on a Marvel Spotlight 5, you're most likely going to get a mid grade copy. But still, that's great. But if you get like a 5.0, let's say Journey into Mystery 83, that's not going to cost you $300. That's not going to cost you $1,500. That's going to cost you several $1,000s. So there's a big difference in getting a 5.0 Journey into Mystery and a 5.0 Luke Cage #1. That's the point I'm trying to make when it comes to big boy books, and why sometimes lower grades are more financially feasible for those books than other books. Books that I don't collect that are low grade, I won't get a 0.5. Or most of the time I won't get a 1.0. I mean, it depends, of course. But I usually stay away from 0.5s because most of the time it's been my experience that they're not presentable. I could spend X amount of dollars on a big boy 0.5, and I could say to myself, well, geez, maybe if I was just a little more patient And if I just saved a little bit more money, I could get something that's a little bit more presentable that most likely will not be a 0.5. So that seems to be something that I would rather do than spend money on a 0.5. But to each his own, right? I don't buy books that have half of the cover ripped off. I don't know if I used this example in a previous video. A Detective Comics 73. You know what that one is? Detective Comics 73 is the second appearance of the Scarecrow, and it has one of the it's one of the more iconic covers of the Detective Comics with the Scarecrow on it. For a while on eBay, I saw that particular book with the whole part of the Detective Comics. Remember when they had the big logo, like the Action Comics and all those? Was completely ripped off. And that took the Scarecrow's head off it. Well, to me, the main reason why that book is so expensive is because of the cover. Well, I'm not going to spend money on that. One of the main reasons why I want that book is because of the cover. And if half of the cover, or at least half of the front cover, is ripped off, why the hell am I going to spend $1,500, $1,800 on that? That's what I call a waste of money and a stupid purchase. Sorry. It just is. It's just a waste of money. If you're going to spend $1,800 on that book, you might as well save a few $100s more and maybe get one that has that part of the cover on it, right? It still might be low grade, but it'd still be a hell of a lot more presentable, especially if you want to sell it down the line. For getting into investment a little bit, if you wanted to sell that book down the line, it'll be a hell of an easier sell with the cover intact, because the main reason why I think that book sells is because of the cover. I don't purchase qualifieds unless it's a big deal. Maybe if it's missing just a coupon or something like that. But if it's missing like the centerfold, or if it's missing a page, that doesn't register as complete to me, and therefore I won't spend my money on that. That's another example of a low grade that I will stay away from. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my list here because I want to make sure I cover everything. I already mentioned like things like horrific staining and stuff like that, large chunks missing. But let me get to my example here. As some of you may know, when it comes to low grade, I don't buy books that have rusty staples. And here is a book that I have that taught me that lesson. Let me take it out of the book. I don't even know why I still have it in Mylar. To be quite frank, it's just stupid upon my part. But let me show you. Now, I didn't pay that much for it. I paid like $30 for it, okay? So let me just take this piece of shit out to share with each and every one of you. Doesn't look that bad, right? Looks low grade, but it doesn't look that bad. But now you take a closer look. As you can see, the water damage over here. Now, the book lies flat, okay? You know, which is quite unusual for a water damaged book, so I'm thinking it might have been pressed. Doesn't smell like it has water damage, but it certainly had water damage. Okay. Now the staples on this, the staples are gone. Okay. They were so rusted. When I got the book, in particular this one right here, see if you get a close up on it. You can't really see that much, but you could see the rust migration over here, right? Okay. When I took a look at the book and I touched the staple came right off. It came right off the book. And with that, it took every wrap with it. The staple just didn't fall off, break off. It took a chunk of every wrap of this book. That was let me see if I could show you here. May not be showing you well. Well, let's just remove it. Here's the cover. Now, I know you want to see my face, but you know, this is a better way to show it to you. The damage, see? It cleanly came right off. And you can even see the top staple too. The damage. Yeah. The staple, wherever the staple went, every page, it just took a chunk of the paper right off. So that's the level of damage a rusty staple can do. I mean, obviously it depends on the rust, but in time, it can do a lot of damage to the book. Like I was saying in one of my other videos, you may get a book that has a rusty staple and CGC might consider it a 3.0. I don't know. But in time, that's not going to stay a 3.0 if you plan to keep it for the long run. And these books, if once again, touching up on investing or flipping rather, rusty staples on books, especially if it's a large amount of rust, they're a hard sell. So if you don't mind buying rusty staples, I would not pay a big amount of money for it. And B, I wouldn't think of it down the line as something that you would consider an investment if that's what you're doing, or flipping investing. So that's my video on the type of low grades I collect, low grade collecting. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions, I always enjoy talking with everybody through comments and so forth, or personal messages. You can do that. Send me a comment or shoot me a message. And once again, everyone in Florida, in the community, there's so many to mention. There are so many that I don't even know about, but the ones that I've mentioned, best of luck to you and your families. Be safe as much as you can. I know that's top priority in your minds. And I'm thinking about you, as I'm sure everybody in the community is thinking about you. Everyone that's in Florida and anywhere else that the hurricane is going to be hitting. I know it's hitting other states too, but it seems to be, and other places, but I think Florida is going to be getting the brunt of it. So best of luck to you. Be safe. Thank you for watching. More videos to come. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.